Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. This morning I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Globe Law and Business. The title of the book is Infrastructure Finance, this book here. I'll have a look at it in a minute. It's an inside view and it's been written by Martin Blaiklock. As I say, it's come to us from Globe Law. It's very much part of the high quality stable of financial publications which Globe aim to produce, and they always succeed with their market. It's I think a first class statement on infrastructure finance, and one I'm sure which will appeal broadly, not just to the legal community but also to the business and financial community. Elizabeth and I have given this review the following title: Practical Approaches to the Financing of Large Infrastructure Projects. And that's what you're getting. Elizabeth was the lead writer on this review. There's the book itself, there's the front. You notice the standard house style, it's inverted, and you can see the name at the bottom. Then you've got the actual spine of it, and then there's some detail on the back. You probably can't make that out too well, but it's reasonably straightforward. It explains who everybody, what is actually in the book, and there's also a quote. Now the book itself runs to something approaching nearly 300 pages, and there's a useful short index at the back, and then of course there is paragraph numbering which is very useful to find things reasonably quickly. The index itself is actually by page numbering if you're actually looking for anything. But if we go to the front of the book, we've got the main front page there, again very much the house style. Then you've got the details about the book. The book is actually available as mainly as a hardback. I don't see any ebook stuff, but it's certainly available as a standard hardback, and that's what you've got there. Then you've got the table of contents. You can see the sections there nicely set out. You should find what you're looking for. Then some acknowledgements. Then details about the author there. Explains who Martin Blaiklock is. And then you've got, after that, a preface which sets out what his vision is for this particular book. And the preface is written in July 2017, and I'm actually recording this in the autumn. Then there's the sources are listed there. There's a glossary of terms which I always think is very helpful. Whenever you're dealing with financial matters, it's useful to have some statement of the acronyms used, because it really can be quite confusing otherwise. You see how it's set out there and so forth as we go through. And again, they've got commonly used phrases. Again, that I think has a legal connotation as well. For instance, assignment, transfer of rights over project assets, etc. It still has basically a legal connotation to it. And then the principles of infrastructure finance are set out. Then we get what is infrastructure, and a starting off point there. Infrastructure can have a number of definitions and interpretations. Then read on and you will find out what it means. Then you can see how the book is structured. Subheadings and numbers and so forth. No footnotes though, which is a boon probably to many people. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're always going to have a lot of detail here, which is important from the point of view of any reading that you do. It's a complicated book. It's not for people without some reasonably good understanding of infrastructure finance itself, what it means and how it works. Let's talk about that a bit further, because the purpose of this review is to tell you about the book in case it's an area you're interested in from practice points of view as a lawyer, or also from a financial point of view. What we say here is that Globe Law and Business is a publisher that can be relied upon to produce titles containing authoritative, carefully researched and certainly expert advice on all manner of key business issues, and in particular those requiring consistent and reliable legal input, and that's what you've got, which is the blend. And one of the latest titles, of course, in the series they produce is Infrastructure Finance by Martin Blaiklock, and it's definitely one of these. It falls into this category. The very word infrastructure engenders feelings that range from excitement and exhilaration to alarm and a degree of dread at the sheer size and complexity of any infrastructure project from conception to completion. However you define it, then there are a number of definitions. Infrastructure refers to big projects, big commitments and big money, and that's really what we're talking about. So as I say, there is that certain element of fear because you're dealing with large sums. Now, in the context of this book, says the author Martin Blaiklock, infrastructure is assumed to mean, quote, the underlying framework of fixed assets required to deliver a public service. There are grey areas, he adds, as to what constitutes a public service, although generally power, transportation, water, health, education and municipal and governmental administration are public services regarded as essential to the economy and its future development. Now, the sheer size, scope and importance of such projects necessitates a broad spectrum of expertise, says Blaiklock, and project finance and PPI is, he says, quote, the ultimate team game in the financial sector, requiring a core team consisting typically of a banker, a technical expert, environmentalist, proposal manager, computer modeler, and also you might say a lawyer. And we put an exclamation mark there just for the sake of it, to emphasise things. Now, as contract is really the core consideration in any of these projects, therefore, yes, a solid core of knowledgeable legal advice consistently on tap is of prime importance to the core team. And I have to say, just developing that a bit, it often surprises me at how limited people's understanding of the law of contract and the principles of the law of contract really is. It's a pity that on the business courses they really don't put more emphasis on the law of contract and how it operates within English law. I think everybody would benefit from that, certainly the business community would, because they wouldn't make such stupid mistakes, which then when we have litigation can ruin the case that you're putting forward. But that's just a side issue. Now, part one of the book is entitled Principles, and it covers the technical, commercial and financial conditions and requirements which are intrinsic to and vital within the legal and contractual framework. And then part two, which is entitled Practice and Experience, covers no less than 13 categories of infrastructure from 6 subcategories of transport, that's roads, bridges, rail, ports, airports and so forth, to power generation, oil and gas, water and waste management, government services such as schools, health, housing, sports facilities and IT. And you can see that that's where the big money is. Now, most of these chapters are organised logically to deal with key features and key risks, and as I said, I found the index quite helpful. Illustrative cases and case studies are provided throughout, many of them replete with warnings against possible perils and pitfalls, whilst revealing the steps that should be taken typically to ensure success. Infrastructure finance, remarks the author, is a corner of the financial markets that ever continues to fascinate. He should know, as a banker with scientific training, he's brought to this book his 40 years of experience in structuring, evaluating, developing and implementing the funding of public and private sector projects. So let me conclude, if the phone doesn't go again, for anyone, especially corporate lawyers, involved with the development of infrastructure projects, of which finance is always at the centre, this book, as the subtitle indicates, does indeed provide us with admirable clarity, an inside view. And the publication date is cited at the 10th of August 2017, and I'm recording this just a little bit later in the year. Let's look at the book again. There's the front. You can see there's standards, then the spine and then the back. Just opening it in the middle. We'll find what's in the middle. Transport, roads and highways. There we go. Again, huge amount of money involved in this. So you can see why when you're talking about the infrastructure, we're talking here, for instance, in paragraph see about the United Kingdom specifically. Toll road, the M6 toll road, which I've used, mentioned there, of course, and so forth. Central Europe is covered, Venezuela, and so forth. Now you get an idea that this is global, and it's actually looking at these very big projects. And frankly, notwithstanding that we're in the year 2017 at the moment, we are looking ahead at some very substantial infrastructure projects for the future. So I think this book has a great deal of long-term significance as well. Thank you to all concerned for producing it, and we're very grateful to have it amongst the titles from Global Law and Business. And thank you very much to Sian O'Neill for moving forward with this. Thank you. Bye-bye.